I'm sure you've heard about it, or you've heard it, or it's a favorite in your playlist. And it carries such an important message, and it's going to be the subject of our discussion this morning. And like I mentioned, that nothing captures the rot in society like Nyashinsky's new song. And I want to introduce my guest here this morning, Susan Gitao. She's a lecturer at the African Nazarene University, and she's also a trauma counseling expert. Thank you very much for that. And she's, of course, so many other things, including a mediator.
Yes,
and Susan, this morning we want to have a very candid discussion about, the kind of content that is in that song and the kind of people we've become, because every other day you hear of this extremely inhuman things that we're doing to each other. And we had this conversation last year, remember, after the election, and we're trying to think, okay, fine, so we became enemies because you're supporting this party and this party. But even the politics aside, we seem to have a problem even just as Kenyans and as people in the country.
This is true, because everyone is observing this with all what is happening, and the saddest event was the Jamhuri High School. These are young people. They're the ones we are thinking they do not have intolerance against each other, but you find they're the ones who are even showing us they can actually take the lead and be the animals that we are not supposed to be. We're supposed to be human beings. I look at my country, Kenya, and believe you me, Betty, yesterday when you called me, you heard when I was telling you I had to step aside.
Right.
Because I was feeling unsafe in the city. That's for the first time.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at...
So you're in the CBD?
Yes, I was in the CBD yesterday when you called me. And I had to ask some guards, can you give me some security? I want to pick a call here. And I was just telling myself when you called me, I was like, now, that's Shindo, I'm also going through the same thing. And it's just within where I work, Moy Avenue. Yes. And I also had a family on Friday that I had to take through trauma counseling because her and the husband were mugged in broad daylight near Queensway.
In the CBD.
In the CBD. Yeah. And there are groups of young men walking. These are men who can walk. So I'm asking myself, where are we heading? And what have we not done right? And I like saying that everybody should take responsibility. If I am a parent at home and I have that young person who is not working, he goes away during the day. When he comes back, do I ask where he was from? Do I ask what he's been doing? And if I am that MCA, because I want to also go to the leadership.
Right.
Do these MCAs know what is happening within their wards? And these MCAs and the chiefs and the sub-chiefs, do they also know what is happening? Does the neighbor care? I keep saying I will be known as an addict of Nyumba Kumi initiative, but where we are headed, Betty, we can no longer take Kenya as a country that was so many years ago, where you knew your neighbor.
So many things have changed.
So many things have changed. And the country also must change. We need to be flexible. We need to know that we no longer live in our own context. Like you see Jamhuri High School. Yes. We have now students from the Muslim community, but before probably only had most of the students coming from Nairobi. And these students could be coming from Garissa, Wajir, and all that. But I'm also looking at the way they started segregating them. Because if you go to a hotel today, you will find, if it's the toilet facilities, they have one for the Muslims, but they do not segregate them. So are we also doing things thinking we are trying to help, but we are actually...
But we are making the situation
worse.
Worse.
Yeah.
Right.
If we are looking at the political divide, the speech, and Betty, I want to tell you, words are very powerful. Because words that are said, and then they get into the mind, and they get in there in a very powerful way. I want to actualize those words.
All right.
So you realize that Kenya, the speech, we've lost it. Everybody is talking against one another.
Right.
Everyone is talking things that are not adding value, not unifying, but actually making sure that we all go apart.
All right. So even from you as an expert in this field, you're a trauma counseling expert.
Yes, yeah.
So even you're worried, because even when I called you yesterday, I was like, am I making a big deal, in my mind for something that maybe is not, so serious, in conversations that we should be having. And, shortly we'll be able to take a look at some of the recent happenings. Just the other day, not sure if it's in Kitale or Migori, there's a man who chopped off the wife's hand because he came home and
he didn't find food.
There was no food. So we'll be looking at some of those incidences that we've seen in the past couple of days. But is there a way out? We'll have a deeper conversation, but is there like light at the end of the tunnel? Because as you said, if this is also happening, in the high schools, the students who are very young, who should be a bit more innocent than, people who have progressed.
Actually, and they're people who are very close to my heart. Because if I have worked hard in this nation, especially in my community service, I've been able to achieve with youths. And not youths from affluent families, but youths from those low backgrounds, the vulnerable populations. And they've heard me. We've listened to each other. But now when I see what is happening, I'm worried. And yet, Betty, you can imagine, there's a very big gap between professionals in this nation and the political leaders. And I think it's the high time we started talking. We need to come there. They need to allow us in. We need to have political goodwill. Because when I was here last, I told you they are professional counselors. In fact, we have started shifting to mediation because we have looked at the situation in the country and we are asking ourselves, before I come in with my counseling, because I need a mind that is receptive, we need to mediate, a win-win situation. And I am asking myself, up to date, have we ever had a counselor, a chief government counselor talking here? And I know there is one who is trying to do her best at the public service, but I've never seen her.
You've never seen her.
I've never seen her
maybe
talk here.
Maybe we should try and invite her.
Oh yes,
see.
because taking care of their public servants, well, it's a good start. But do they take care of even the families of those public servants?
All right.
What about themselves? Do they know that they also have issues? That if they don't deal with those issues, what they do, they project the same to the society.
The same to the society. All right, Susan, we'll continue with the discussion in a couple of minutes. But I also want to hear your thoughts on this one. We're talking about just the social fabric and how things are changing. Everything is happening everywhere. The recent KNH rape allegations, extremely disturbing. We'd like to hear your thoughts on this one. Hashtag is News Center or at Betty M. Kallo. Talk to me. Do you think we've become monsters like Nyashinsky says in his song Hayawani? Let's take